Hello, everyone. It is 11:30 Central, so we will get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's presentation, Engaging Career Path Experiences Your Students Will Love. My name is Kelsey, and I will be your moderator for today's presentation. First, here is your 30-second introduction to Realityworks for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We are an employee-owned company based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin that creates experiential learning tools for teaching job and life skills. We got our start over 20 years ago when former NASA engineer Rick Germain created the first RealCare baby infant simulator and then went on to found the company that is now Realityworks. Today, our training tools combine curriculum with hands-on learning tools, student activities, and assessments. Baby is still around, but now you can look to us for our tools like our bovine birthing and ultrasound, our virtual welding simulator, our wearable geriatric sensitivity suits, and if you have some time, we encourage you to check out our website and see it all. Presenting today, we have Todd Hunter, who is the STEM and Career Exploration Product Manager here at Realityworks. Todd is an experienced educator in leading innovative curriculum design, and he has over 19 years of experience as a STEAM teacher and program developer in Minnesota. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple things. First, today's presentation is being recorded, and all attendees will receive a link containing the recording, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides and free resources. For those of you attending live today, you will also receive a certificate of completion for attending today's presentation. Keep an eye on your email. You will receive that email within 24 hours after the presentation, and we will have time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to type your questions in the chat or Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Todd.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelsey. I really appreciate you guys giving us some of your time today. Our goal with this webinar is, oh, is it going? Right, to look at some of the career paths that are available to your students, but more specifically, what are some concrete solutions that you can implement in your classroom to really open the door for your students in those career paths. So we are going to dive into 4 different career paths today. We're going to start out with our childcare and early childhood education. Now, while you and I, being in education, are probably very aware of the dynamics surrounding childcare careers, our students, being the teenagers that they are, probably are not. When teaching, I always made an effort to connect our unit to specific real world happenings, which really helped to build student buy-in and engagement. Many people know us for our Real Care Baby, which is such a cool learning experience and is so effective at helping students develop those real world skills related to infant care, which is relevant to anyone, no matter what career you choose. While Real Care Baby is optimized for individual student interaction, that powerful take home experience, many teachers came to us looking for what comes next, which is why we launched the Child Care Experience, or CCE as we call it. CCE is the logical next step for your early childhood educational pathway programming, allow you to create a very real center-based childcare simulation experience right in your classroom. In a real childcare setting, not all infants are going to be the same age or at the same developmental level, which is why we include both the 3 and 9 month babies with the childcare experience. This allows students to develop an understanding of how childcare differs from one age to the next. And from a learning experience perspective, it helps build that capacity to manage multiple infants' different needs simultaneously, which as a dad, I would have appreciated this experience before having multiple children. Now, what's really cool is that this really brings to life the experience of working in a child care center, right? Like students have to, with these babies that are smart and sort of robotic and are aware of how you interact with them, really have to jump into that role of being a care provider. This is not just a baby doll, right? It's not a potato. I remember they sent my daughter home with a potato in middle school, right? These things are so amazing, Now, to facilitate that experience, right, you as the teacher have the ability to maintain a really high level of accountability, which is important in an educational setting. And while most students really enjoy working with CCE, it's not a game. And their decisions, their habits, their ability to manage different scenarios are all recorded in the included teacher tablet, which makes it really easy for the teacher to create a focused, intentional learning environment that can translate straight into the student's gradebook. Our teachers who have been in the field and testing CCE have had really, really fantastic inputs. And from Kelly and Stephen's points, I really like this, right? How CCE shows kids that every kid has a different need and that happens at different times, and sometimes they overlap. And in the reality, the real world, that can become overwhelming, right? We want students to experience that and then to successfully work through that in an educational setting. Much better than just jumping into it cold feet, not knowing what you're doing. Now, the childcare experience isn't just for students thinking about childcare careers. It really is a developmental stepping stone to so many future career opportunities, such as being a pediatric speech pathologist, a social worker, youth sports coach, nanny, child psychologist, so many different careers. And so that's one thing I really want to emphasize with this. It is not just for kids who want to or are thinking about working in a childcare center, right? This can be a really foundational and important part of your early childhood career pathway. Now, let's switch to a different part of life, right? Geriatric care. Geriatric care is something that, well, for you and I, we know this is going to be an incredibly important part of our future, right? You look at the statistics from the World Health Organization, right? Our world's population is aging, and the number of people in this category is skyrocketing, which means when it comes to employment in the world of geriatric care, there's going to be a huge, massive need for people who have the skills and the training to be successful working with this aging population. Also, this is going to be an incredibly lucrative, from a career perspective, pathway for our students, right? The hardest part, though, is how do we get students to understand the value and the fact that they could be really successful in this field? So we've created here at Realityworks quite a few resources to help you as teachers sort of build in this learning experience, this idea of let's actually tackle geriatric care as a unit in our pathways. So if you go to Realityworks website, there's a really helpful search bar, and you type in geriatric training there, you'll come up with tons of stuff. What I'm going to dive in today is this specific resource, our geriatric training resource, right? And this really was built off of some work we did with a nearby college that looked at how building empathy, right, through simulation was a game changer for students in the healthcare career fields. And what they found is that simulation was incredibly effective in promoting understanding of geriatric patients and their needs and reducing that negative stigmatization that can happen often when it comes to working with this population. Oh, where'd my cursor go? Right. So what you'll find at our website, and if you look at the products that we have, is this pretty amazing collection of simulation experiences, which are incredibly powerful for students because they're not just reading about geriatric care. They are actually living it and experiencing it in all these different forms. Right. And the one that I want to dive into today is our geriatric simulator. I was just at a conference in California, and one of the hits of the show was the dementia. I'm sorry, the visual impairment glasses. People were trying them on, and it was like, oh, wow, I finally understand. My grandmother and my grandfather, they had glaucoma, and I never really could wrap my head around what it was like to see through their eyes. And so we've created this package that, students put these things on, whether you do just one or all of them at once, they get a chance to really feel what it's like to exist, right, with limited mobility, limited sight and vision, even just I don't know, it just goes so far. So if you look at the curriculum that's packaged with that, because that's something that's really important to us here at Realityworks, there's quite a bit that's included. So you can see that there's a whole complete learning experience, 10 to 15 hours of engagement. And every student I've talked to who has participated in this, you can just see the light bulb clicking on, like, oh, I get it now. I understand because they're making that connection to what they experience to the people that they love in their life who are getting old. We've got quite a few different products that help with this, depending on what fits your program. Um, there really is just a ton of different ways for you to customize what this can look like for you and your educational programming. Now, our next career pathway is related to geriatric care, but it's something that is incredibly important no matter the age of the population that you're working with as a healthcare professional, which is the concept of sterility. We work closely with a wide network of healthcare professionals, and over, we hear about how important maintaining a sterile environment is. We also hear that no matter the healthcare career a student chooses, understanding the importance of sterility and being able to provide patient care while maintaining sterility is incredibly hard to teach students. And while, yes, there are basic practices that you can test and evaluate students on, there's no replacement for the actual practicing of sterile techniques while involved in real procedures, which is why we developed our sterile technique simulator. This is a phenomenal product. I got to help a little bit with the research and development process, and it uses conductivity to monitor how students interact with this simulation mannequin. Now, what's really amazing about this is we worked incredibly closely with a number of healthcare professionals to test and evaluate and develop this. And what we ended up with was creating this product that allows students to actually participate in these three really common practices. I'm going to mess this up: tracheostomy, suctioning, central line cleansing, and catheterization. Now, every time you practice, right, you put on these conductive gloves. And actually, let me switch the slide here. And that allows you or allows the simulator to pay attention to what you touch and in what order you touch, which helps to reinforce, right, practical habits that maintain sterility. This thing is so cool. There really is. I've never seen anything that comes close to building those sterile skills without actually being in a healthcare setting. So cool. Next, we're going to jump to a very different field, not related to healthcare, but at the same time, it is. Um, I would argue, and I think all of us would agree, our future is going to be incredibly dictated by the world of electricity. Whether you're looking at becoming an electrician in the trades, or you're thinking about going that engineering route, or hey, even if we're in healthcare, you are using electrically powered equipment, sensors, data collection units all the time. So no matter what your future looks like, electricity is going to be part of that. Now, we heard from many of our teachers that they need a better way to teach electrical concepts. And the struggle was there was lots of conceptual resources out there, but students, whether they were looking at going into construction, robotics, mechatronics, or becoming an engineer really struggled at transferring that conceptual understanding to a real world application. That led us to develop our trailer circuit STEM kit. Now, what's really cool about this is we have set this up to take students from zero to hands-on, I can do it. And to facilitate that, you get a bunch of these hands-on simulators, but also LMS. So whether you're using Schoology or Google Classroom, you have resources that are ready to upload and deliver. Slideshows for students, a student workbook, and then a key of all of the things for you as the teacher. This is set up so that you can sort of get students working individually or in small groups of 2 to 4, right? And you don't have to be in the front of the room teaching, but you can work around and connect with students as they need help individually in their teams. Now, included in this are 8 lessons that really do take you from I know nothing about electricity. So this would be valid anywhere from early middle school all the way up until upper high school, seniors, depending on how far you wanted to take students in the curriculum. Right. So we start out with just the basics of electricity. We look at different circuit types and wiring skills. We assume that students don't know how to do anything, and so we guide them through it all. Then we jump to wiring with a four-way trailer harness. Right. Then we learn how to use a multimeter. We really step up our game now, right? Because now we're learning how to test and make sure we understand how to evaluate our circuits that we've built. And then we elevate to a 7-way harness. And then we learn how to troubleshoot. And then we practice. And then finally, the assessment mode. What I really am proud of with this curriculum is that we do guide students through every single little tiny step, right? We can't just give them the harness and the tools and say, hey, go to it, figure it out. We want to make sure that they're set up for success. Now, to facilitate that learning experience, right, students are, as they're working through these lessons, building circuits, cutting wire, stripping them, prepping them, crimping, right? They are working through the student workbook, all right, which guides them and also becomes a really valuable resource, right, for afterwards when they're done and they're ready to move on to whatever you've chosen next in your curriculum or class, right? Like I said, you also have keys. We include for every single one of these units pre and post tests that if I was doing this as a teacher, I would upload into my Google Classroom. Gives me a really easy way to hold students accountable, can load that right into my grade book, and there's just no question about students making forward progress. One of the things we heard from our teachers a lot when it came to electricity, whether you're teaching construction or doing robotics or more in like a science class, right? Trying to create this engaging learning experience was safety. Safety from the perspective of one, students are oftentimes afraid of electricity. Two, teachers are frustrated because students, if they short out something, they might blow a light bulb or melt a battery pack, or all of a sudden somebody gets burned because they switch the polarity on a battery and it's heating up. What's phenomenal about this product is our electrical engineers developed this thing to be incredibly safe. I was just teaching a workshop this a few days ago at that California conference, and seriously, there is no way to break this thing. There is no way to short circuit it. You'll have that one kid, right, who's like, I'm gonna touch all the terminals, and they can do that. And the circuit is smart where it will just turn itself off if it notices that something is being connected that shouldn't be. So there are no short circuits, there's no fried components, and students cannot get shocked. Now, what's also super cool is, and the reason that this is such an effective product is that it uses a context, which is a car, brake lights, running lights, reverse lights, marker lights, right? It uses a context that students are really familiar with, especially in high school as they're thinking about getting their driver's license, right? then it teaches electricity through that context. So now, right, yeah, I learned how to wire a four-way harness, or maybe if they have a fancier truck that has a horse trailer or a boat trailer or an RV, they're using the seven-way harness like shown right there, right? Now they can take what they've learned and actually go out to their car. And this happens to me every spring when I hook my trailer up. There's always something that doesn't work. Now, the same stuff that I learned in the classroom in a safe, controlled, and successful way, I can see out there in the real world. It's not just this conceptual, magical thing that I drew on paper. Now, this is also, I wish this product existed while I was teaching. We built into this curriculum kind of this is how where we work students towards is the ability to start troubleshooting. Because if you can troubleshoot circuits, that means you have a really, really high understanding, but that's a hard skill to learn. And so we teach it. We give students a framework of thinking, this troubleshooting process, and then we guide them through it. And built into the simulator are 10 troubleshooting scenarios that their student workbook guides them through. And every single one of them is different, which is super cool. There's even, you can see a picture here, so this picture is not that great, is a working fuse panel. And what's cool is if you take your multimeter and you test those fuses, which the curriculum teaches how to do, it will measure 12 volts, just like an actual car. What's also cool, and I haven't mentioned, is that this thing is just powered by four AAA batteries. So it's really easy to move anywhere in class. And even though it measures as 12 volts, like a real car system would, it's a trick of the engineering, the circuit boards inside the simulator. And so the batteries last forever, which is super cool. All right, where's my slides? There we go. Right. Now, this comes with just an absolute ton. So one kit comes with three of the trailers, but it also includes the multimeters, the auto test lights, and the tools, spools of wire, and the other consumables that you need. So it really is a really complete package, which is, again, I wish I had this when I was teaching. So that was a really, really quick look at four career pathways that we provide products for. I'm gonna have Kelsey jump in right here, and then I can take some questions in a second.
Perfect. Thank you, Todd. Yeah, so if you are interested in connecting with your local Realityworks account manager, you can talk about starting or refreshing your own program, request a quote, get questions and more. You can scan that QR code on the screen and we can get you connected with them. And I will put the URL in the chat as well, if you want to do it that way. So we will open it up for questions now. So first question I had was, are these products primarily focused on the secondary level?
Well, that's a great question. I would say all of these would have a place, depending on your program and how you set up that student experience, because oftentimes, right, you guys are thinking about where do we start students and where do we take them to? I would say that all of these products can be used anywhere from the middle school level, the high school level, and even early post-secondary, depending on the level of student that you're trying to reach.
Perfect. And another question here for the trailer circuit STEM kit, how many of those kits would you recommend for a classroom?
Oh, that is great. We chose to offer it as a package of three because that seems like a really great multiplier that teachers can use to fit their class size and their application. With that one set of three, you could set up the learning experience so that you had one student working with one simulator. I would say though that I could easily see three students still being highly engaged because that would look like you have one student who is with the curriculum, the slideshow, kind of guiding the group. Another student is somebody who really wants to do the hands-on, and then another student is kind of dealing with the materials. So three would still be super effective. Even four would be effective too. So depending on your class size, maybe one set of three would work. We just had a teacher the other day who wanted to get three sets because they had a really large class, and that gave them nine simulators to work with.
Perfect. Awesome. And then one last question here that I see. As far as curriculum goes, do all of these products come with curriculum included as well?
Absolutely. That is something that Realityworks always includes. We work very closely with both professionals in the field, but also teachers to make sure that we're providing a curriculum that gives them the knowledge, if they're not an expert themselves, in whatever it is that they want to bring into their program, this new learning experience, right? Everything is sent to you digitally so that you have it ready to use in the way that best suits your needs.
Perfect. Well, I don't see any other questions at this time then.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Please go ahead and scan that, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.